right, what's going on, everyone? Swinging Bull here with PB Alerts, and welcome to my earnings stream. And today we have Netflix, Big Daddy stock, trading at $1,275 a share. That's where I closed the regular session, 1275.62, up 2% on the day. And the other company reporting earnings is Interactive Broker. That's IBKR. I believe both companies are supposed to report right at 4 p.m. Eastern. Let's take a quick look here what Earnings Whispers says. Yeah, Earnings Whispers says Netflix, 4 p.m. Eastern. Forecast EPS, $7.07. Big old EPS there. Forecast revenue, $11.05 billion. Their anchored VWAP just below like $1,200 a share. Interactive Broker, same thing. Their Earnings Whisper says 4 p.m. Eastern, so we should get both earnings data for both these companies at the same time. The forecast EPS 46 cents, forecast revenue $1.33 billion. Their anchored VWAP around $50 a share. They closed the regular session at $59.45. All right, back to the sticks here. We're getting reactions on both stocks. Let me go to the 1 minute chart. Let's see what we got here. Got quite a bit of volatility. Went up quite a bit. It went up to almost $1,307 a share. Then came back down, and it's just kind of flickering right now. So let's give it a second for the price to settle down here. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to look at what the EPS and revenue came in at. Still got some indecision going on with the price. A little after 4 p.m. Eastern. Regular session officially over with. Okay, I'm showing a double beat on Netflix. So they beat EPS and beat revenue. Let me post this in the comments here and on the bottom of my screen. Here we go. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. So double beat. Netflix, again, the forecast was $7.06. They just reported 7.19 for the EPS. And for the revenue, the forecast was 11.05 billion. And they just reported 11.08 billion. So double beat. Let's see what the price does. It's still a little early. It's only been a few minutes. At first it waked up. Now it's looking like there's some sun going on. So let's give it a moment. Okay, it's down about $16 a share right now. Still kind of flickering a little bit. The Interactive Broker getting a positive reaction. All right, let me get some more info here. Netflix has beat earnings 5 quarters in a row. Kind of a fun fact there. But so far the price isn't showing a positive reaction. Kind of flat. But again, still kind of flickering and volatile a little bit. So let's give it a few more minutes and see what. It's definitely going to pick a direction. Just really hasn't picked one yet, has it? Okay, while we're waiting on the price to make a decision, let me see if I got anything for Interactive Broker. Well, let me go to the Webull charts real quick. Go 1 minute. Here we go. Coming into the earnings. Let's see here. Let me close this down just for a second. Going into the earnings, trailing 12-month PE was 60, EPS 21.16, 423 million float. Obviously, Netflix is a profitable company. 5 years in a row. And 5 quarters in a row. Debt to asset only 53%. So go back to the 6. All right, well, so far investors aren't impressed. Even though they double beat, they must have lowered guidance or something. As soon as I find that, I'll let everyone know. Looking at IBKR on the right side of my screen. Okay, they actually had really good earnings. Let's just go over. I know most people are here for Netflix, but while we're waiting for the price to kind of settle down, let's look at IBKR just for a second. It's the screen on my right. IBKR up over 5% right now. So Interactive Brokers forecast EPS was 0.47. They just reported 0.51, so they beat that by 9%. Revenue forecast was 1.37 billion. They just reported 1.48 billion, so they beat that by 8%. Double beat Interactive Brokers. Year over year numbers look solid. EPS up 16% year over year. Revenue up 20% year over year. Even the quarter over quarter numbers are looking good. EPS up 9% quarter over quarter and revenue up 4% quarter over quarter. So double beat in the year over year and quarter over quarter numbers look solid. And the stock price of IBKR is reflecting that. We got some buying pressure, up 7.5% in after hours right now. We'll go back to Netflix here in a second. But solid beat by IBKR. Investors are loving it. They closed the regular session at $59.43, basically flat on the day. And now they're sitting here in after hours, up almost 9%. Yep, they just broke 9%. So they just hit 64.87 here in after hours, up over $5 a share. And let me just, I'm going to go back to Netflix here in a second, but let me just look at some things for IBKR. Commission revenue increased 27% to $516 million on higher customer trading volumes. Wow, that's impressive. Customer trading volume in stocks, options, and futures increased 31%, 24%, and 18% respectively. Solid numbers. IBKR. Congrats to the IBKR Bulls. Looking good. Back over to Netflix because I'm almost certain they lowered guidance because they beat EPS, they beat revenue, and they're not catching any buyers right now. Actually, they raised revenue guidance. So Netflix Q2 earnings, they beat on EPS and revenue, generated $2.2 billion in free cash flow in the quarter. They raised revenue guidance to grow 17.3% in Q3. They do not say subscriber numbers, but they're seeing continued growth in members. So that's interesting. They didn't report anything about the subscriber numbers, so that's why it's kind of just sitting here. Investors are like, well, you know, subscriber numbers, that's a big line item. We want to know that. So they did not say subscriber numbers. Maybe at their earnings web call, probably around 5 p.m. when that happens. I'll look that up here in a minute. Maybe they'll talk about that during the web call, but I'm not seeing where they posted subscriber numbers. But got some solid info here from Shai Balor on Twitter. Give a shout out to him. So again, EPS 7.19 versus the estimate of 7.07. Operating margin 34% versus the estimate of 33%. Q3 guide. Okay, here's the Q3 guide. So they announced 11.5 billion in sales. The estimate was 11.3 billion. So they increased guidance on sales, and they also increased guidance on EPS. So the guidance for Q3 EPS 6.87 versus the estimate of 6.67. So yeah, they increased Q3 guidance, and for the remainder of the year for this year, 2025, they also increased sales guidance for the year, just by a little bit, but the estimate was 44.6 billion. They raised it to 45.1. So double beat, and they raised Q3 guidance for sales and EPS, and they raised fiscal year 2025 guidance for sales. But no mention of subscriber numbers. I think that's what's throwing investors off right now is, okay, great, fantastic. You beat EPS, you beat revenue, you increased guidance. No mention of subscribers. What's the deal? What's going on? So, like I say, maybe they talk about that in their earnings web call. Let me see what time their earnings web call is. I know most people are going to want to probably attend that. Let me just look that up for everyone real quick. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm just going to go to their investor relations page and see if I can get their when their earnings web call is. Video interview. Okay, let me go to their events. How about that? All right. We go back to overview. Okay, here we go here. All right, yeah. Here's the webcast here. So let me post this link. Give everyone time to screenshot it. And then we'll pull this screen over so everyone can see. But there's the Netflix link that gets you to the earnings web call. And they're saying it's at 1:45 Pacific time. Let me just double check that. 1:45 p.m. Pacific time. That's right. PST. Okay, so that means it's going to be at 4:45 p.m. today. So in about 30 more minutes is when their web call is for Netflix. Let's just pull this over here. I'll keep the Netflix chart on the left. Looks like they're trying to bottom out. And again, initial reaction on Netflix was positive. Wicked all the way up to 13.08 after closing the regular session at 12.74 and some change. And then the selling started. Sold off to 12.34 and some change. So that was like a, let's see, 13.08 minus 12.34. That's $74 kind of range there from top to bottom. So $74 a share. But anyways, that link I just put on the bottom of my screen, that'll get you to the Netflix earnings web call with the upper management, CEO, all that good stuff. You can see here it's at 1:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's going to be 4:45 p.m. Eastern in about 30 minutes. All right. And yeah, so if you want to watch that, you got the link there. You can screenshot on my screen. Let me see if there's anything about subscriber numbers yet, because that's the only thing I'm really not seeing. Everything else looks positive, but even the revenue is up 15% year over year, and the EPS is up 45% year over year. Very interesting. Let's look at a few other things. Yeah, still not seeing subscriber numbers. Very interesting. Wonder why they withheld that. I think that's what most people want to see. And Netflix is down a little over 1% in after hours, about $15 a share. All right, so 30 more minutes. And just to kind of summarize, for the revenue and operating income, they slightly beat the guidance, driven by strong member growth, ad sales, and favorable FX. Yeah, okay, driven by strong member growth, but what tell us what the subscriber numbers were. Let's take a look at a few other things. They do have $8.2 billion in cash and equivalents. It's definitely a positive thing. Looks like Netflix kind of bottomed out though. It's starting to retrace a little bit. Go to trading view real quick. Okay, just take a look at this. I don't really want to count these candles up top here because that really wasn't that initial move was not ended up being the real move. But let me take a look at this. Go top to bottom, maybe like this. Okay, hold on. Someone was trying to call me here. All right. All right. So it is starting to retrace a little bit. sitting right around $12.61 a share. Let's see if it can retrace all the way back up to where it closed, $12.74. So anyways, 8.2 billion in cash and equivalents. I'm going to put their EPS and revenue data back on the bottom of my screen there. And a couple business highlights. Well, the net cash from operations was 2.48 billion. The same time last year, it was 1.38 billion. So they did a great job on net cash from operations. A couple business highlights. They launched redesigned TV homepage. Okay, I did notice that too the other day. They announced a TF1 partnership in France. Invested over 1 billion euros in Spain from 2025 to 2028. Released Squid Game season 3, I guess. 122 million views on that. And they repurchased 1.5 million shares. That totaled $1.6 billion. So wow. Future outlook, Q3 revenue up 17, or they're predicting 17% year over year. And this is the outlook. So Q3 2025 operating margin, they're projecting 31%, which would be 2% year over year. 2025 revenue forecast 44.8 billion to 45.2 billion. That's also would be 16% year over year if they hit that. That's for the remainder of the year, of course. Free cash flow for 2025, 8 billion to 8.5 billion. That's up from 8 billion. Look at Interactive Broker. Had a nice positive reaction and came all the way back down, basically 100% retraced on this thing. Look at that. Wow. Let me go back the other way here. Go from, top to bottom. So, they basically retraced 100%. So, not sure what's going on there. They did have a little over 7 million volume today. Average volume's a little over 5 million. So, they did have a little more volume than normal, of course, due to the earnings. And I'm still not seeing any subscriber numbers. Let's look at some of the commentary from the CEO. It says we're raising our fiscal year forecast for revenue and operating margin, primarily due to the depreciation of the U.S. dollar and ongoing business momentum. That's interesting comment. We still expect ad revenue to double in 2025. Okay. Response to our recent price adjustments has been broadly in line with expectations. Our streaming model continues to scale profitability with improved engagement and monetization. All right, roger that. Good information there. And let's make sure I didn't miss anything that I think would be important here. I think they delivered a strong quarter. I really do think so. Just look at, but investors aren't impressed yet. I think they really want to see that subscriber data, and they didn't say anything about that. So I'm assuming they're going to say something about that at 4:45 p.m. Eastern when they do their call. But there's a little graphic here. It's from the earnings correspondent. Double beat. Now, I will say they didn't beat by much. Maybe investors were expecting them to beat forecasts a lot more, but nonetheless, double beat on EPS and revenue. Year over year numbers, double digit growth, EPS up 47% year over year, revenue up 16% year over year. For the quarter over quarter numbers, EPS up 9%, revenue up 5%. So, I think the data is solid. I just don't think, there's still some missing pieces of information here that investors want to know. And that's why the price is kind of a little flat right now. Technically it's down just under 1%, $12 a share. It's a $1,275 stock. So, 1%, that's not really anything there. Did wick down to $12.34 a share. And it looks like there were some dip buyers there because the price is starting to retrace back up now. Let's see if this level here, right around 12.56 a share, maybe that forms a higher low, right? That forms a higher low, then maybe the bulls are onto something here, and it retraces all the way back up. Let me see if I can just draw that. So you got the the first low right there, and then you could maybe say that that this is the this could be the higher low, right? Let's see if I move that over. Yeah, something like that. So let's see if this 12.56 ends up turning into a higher low or not. If not, then of course we got some levels we can keep our eye on. S1 is going to be that 12.56, the potential higher low. S2 probably going to be this 25% retrace at 12.45. So we'll see if those support levels hold or not. We'll keep our eye on it. Got about 25 more minutes until the earnings web call with them. Let's go back to IBKR real quick. We kind of went over that pretty well, but they did have double beat. They double beat as well, and the year over year and quarter over quarter numbers were all nice and green, so good stuff there. Let's see here. Basically, to summarize, Interactive Broker. I like the earnings data, and they had strong trading activity. Basically, strong trading activity is what drove the record commissions and customer accounts surged to 3.87 million. That's up 32% year over year. Customer accounts. So they had a ton of new signups and pretty significant growth from the same time last year. So Interactive Broker looking good. They had a nice positive reaction, pulled almost 100% retraced, but now there's some buyers back in the picture, and the price is going back up a little bit. So overall, up almost 5% in after hours. Netflix, still not really much going on. I mean, I know it's red. It's down a little over 1%, $15 a share, but not really doing anything. So maybe it starts trending in one direction or the other once that earnings web call starts. Let me just look at some other things on IBKR Interactive Broker. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. Yeah, so we talked about the customer accounts being up 32% year over year. It's pretty impressive. Customer margin loan, 65.1 billion. That's up 18% year over year. There's 18% more customers as far as the margin loan amounts from the same time last year. Execution, clearing, and distribution fees, 116 million. 116 million. That's only up 1% year over year. Yep, I'm surprised Netflix isn't making a bigger move, but it is what it is, and we're just gonna have to wait for that earnings web call at 4:45. I'm personally not going to stream it, but if anyone's interested in watching it, I'll post the link right there. I'll post the link in the Discord too if anyone wants to watch it in there. Okay, so this link here, that'll I just posted it in the Discord. That'll take you to the earnings web call. All right, but yeah, I mean, there's really not much going on. I thought Netflix would be a little more action. RT Trade asks how many Netflix iron condors. Yeah, it's actually an inverse iron condor. It's definitely going to be a different trade. Iron condor is 2 credit spreads, basically a credit spread on each side of the price. The trade I did was an inverse iron condor. That's a debit spread on each side of the price. And to answer your question, only did one of them because they were kind of expensive. They're like $250 each on a 5 wide. So if we don't get the move that I'm looking for by tomorrow morning, I'll probably just stop out of the trade. But yeah, I mean, Netflix had an $80 per share expected move for tomorrow's expiration. Right now, it's nowhere near that. It's down $13. So I'm I can only assume that there'll probably be a secondary move at the earnings web call, and maybe it starts trending into tomorrow, and then we kind of go from there. RT Trade asks what my stop loss is on the Netflix lotto trade. Lotto trades, trading anything through earnings, that's usually zero or hero. There's not really a stop loss on those because we can't trade options in extended hours. So how are you going to have a stop loss on it? If it goes against you a lot, there's really nothing you can do until market open the next day. So yeah, anytime I trade through earnings, it's always going to be a lotto trade, which means only put in what you're willing to lose, because these earnings lottos trades, it's totally a gamble. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to blow smoke. Any trade through earnings, you're gambling. I mean, let's just accept the fact that's what it is. Okay. So I don't want anyone, putting too much weight into these earnings lotto trades, because it's totally a 50-50 shot. It's same odds as red or black on roulette, but yeah, I only did one of the inverse iron condors. Now, if we manage the trade first thing in the morning, it should go to zero. You should be able to get some of your money back. So that's probably, if this doesn't start trending, for the remainder of after hours and for pre-market tomorrow morning, if it doesn't start moving, then yeah, I mean, tomorrow morning I'll see what the value of the inverse iron condor, whatever value's left over, and I may just cash it in and try and get back what I can. But those inverse iron condors, let me kind of show you how the trade is built out real quick. So this is kind of what it looks like. So we would win the trade if Netflix rallied, or if Netflix sold off, of course, by a certain amount. So there's actually two ways to win these inverse iron condors. But the risk is if Netflix stays flat, if Netflix doesn't have a reaction and is just flat, that's where you're going to lose your money. But if you look at the table here, you can see, let me see. So this is tomorrow's expiration. Let me see if I can move this out a little bit. So if Netflix, so the max loss on this, I paid $255 for it. Max profit of $245 plus your $255 back, right? You get reimbursed back for that plus $245 on top of that. So you can see if you manage it in the morning, you shouldn't be taking the whole $255 max loss. You could probably get like maybe $100 back from it or something. That's assuming it stays flat, right? I'm hoping it doesn't stay flat. I know we don't like to use the word hope and stuff, but this is an earnings lotto trade, and I can't really do anything with options and extended hours. So I'm kind of at the mercy of Netflix right now. I can't even manage the trade. So that's why I say, anytime I do these lotto trades, in theory, they're zero or hero, right? You just have to accept the fact that I usually only use like maybe some profit from a previous trade. So I'm not really kind of spending any money, but that's number one. Number two, there is a way to mitigate a little bit of the risk. And that's first thing tomorrow morning. We gotta be ready to pull the trigger. And for me, if Netflix hasn't made a move by then, I'll probably go ahead and just stop out of the trade and just try and get as much of this $255 back as I can. And even if Netflix moves a little bit, I could probably get like $100 back. But ideally, with these inverse iron condors, we would want Netflix above $13.27 a share to get the profit on the upside, and then we would need it below $11.97 a share to be profitable if it makes a down move. And again, if it stays flat, that's where the risk is with these iron condors. All right. So Snowflake says you need Netflix at 1380 at open. Oh, damn. Yeah, maybe you just bought like a cheap out of the money option or something. With this iron condor, I just needed above 1327, so it's not really that far from where the price is at now. So we'll see. Right now it's trading sideways, gearing up for what the earnings web call is going to be all about here in about 15 minutes. Is the earnings web call. That the link's on the bottom of my screen. That's how you get there. What's going on, my people on Kick? Siamese Jordan, how you doing? But yeah, it's been about 30 minutes. We got our reactions, which again, Netflix kind of rallied, then it sold off, and now it's just kind of trading right below where it closed at. Again, probably maybe get a secondary move, and maybe it starts trending in one direction or the other once the earnings web call goes down in about 15 minutes. So just keep your eyes on it. Just trading sideways right now. Interactive Broker, they had good earnings data. Double beat. Year-over-year numbers were great. Quarter-over-quarter numbers were great. They initially rallied pretty good. Then they almost 100% retraced back down. And then there were some dip buyers there. And now it's just kind of hanging out. 50% retrace from that initial pump, sitting right around $62 a share. So keep your eyes on it. And again, earnings web call with Netflix is in about 15 minutes. Luke asks on YouTube, do you think Netflix will be like Nike where it drops on earnings but soars at guidance? Yeah, and I've seen that with a few others where the initial earnings data gets released and there's like a negative reaction, and then all of a sudden the earnings web call goes down with the upper management, the CEO and the CFO, and then all of a sudden it reverses and goes back up because they talk about the guide a lot in the earnings call. That could be a situation with Netflix. It could, Is it guaranteed? No, because nothing in trading is guaranteed, but it very well could do that. And even though it's not getting a positive reaction, it's still a monster company. I mean, this is the best of the best in the streaming world here. There's a reason why they're trading, $1,270 a share, I'm kind of waiting for them to do a forward split or something. But anyways, yeah, that's definitely a possibility because we do see that where these stocks get a secondary move when they do the web call. We see that a lot. Luke said you got put spreads, so the premiums were too good, not too. Anything under 1280 is fine with me. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I was just talking about the inverse iron condor I did, which I basically put a debit spread on each side of the price because I was thinking Netflix was going to have a big move. I mean, the expected move for tomorrow's expiration was $80, and I know those expected moves aren't 100% accurate, but it's a good guide to build the trade out. Sometimes we see double the expected move. Sometimes we see only half of the expected move. And then sometimes it's right at the expected move. But so it's just a good guide to build up the trades to kind of get an idea of where your break even should be and stuff like that. So I just figured it'd be, and I'm not right all the time, but overall we got a super high win rate with these inverse iron condors. But right now Netflix is just kind of flat. It does look like there are some buyers in the picture. Like I said, it's been retracing since hitting that low of 1234. It's been retracing, so we'll see. And we're just gonna have to wait until the earnings web call, and that's in about 10 minutes, y'all. Okay. But yeah, it looks like we got our reactions. There's not really much else going on. My name's the Swinging Bull with PB Alerts. In the Discord, I do most of the advanced options trades. So a lot of my trades have multi-legs on them, and I do a lot of spreads, credit spreads, debit spreads, condors. I run a ton of the wheel strategy. So selling cash secured puts to get into stock and selling covered calls to get out of stock for profit, and while collecting premium and income the whole time, right? So that's the bulk of my trading actually is the wheel strategy. So if anyone out there is interested in learning a little bit more about the wheel strategy, definitely hit me up in the Discord. Again, my name's the Swinging Bull. Tag me in the chat. I'll come by and say hello, and we can talk for a little bit. But Yeah, other than that, I hope everyone has a good night. That's about all I got for this stream. I do these earnings streams every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, just keep your eye on Netflix. It's starting to climb back up. It looks like that 1256 S1 level I pointed out. It looks like it did turn into a higher low. So kind of did what I thought it was going to do, and that's always a good thing. So, and it's on its way back up now. So this is almost getting back up to where it closed the regular session at. So maybe it's on to something. Maybe it starts trending up. We don't know yet. I think the earnings web call in about 10 minutes is going to say a lot. But yeah, swing and bull PB alerts. I hope everyone has a great night, and I'll see y'all in the very next stream. Cheers.